Welcome to this FB live session of my interpretation of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. Thank you for joining today and your time. To have you here is a great support for my first ever public session. Before we begin talking about the book, let me share a quick background on me. As you all would already know by now, my name is Rashie Sinha, and I'm a business consultant, coach, and trainer. I come with 20 years of experience. I started my corporate journey 2 decades ago, and over the years have worked with multiple organizations where my key mandate was to launch new businesses or verticals. I have had the revenue responsibility as part of my KRA. Such a role helped me with the right exposure on business growth strategy, and it soon became a core strength. Such a role also meant that I had to lead drafting of SOPs, that is standard operating procedure, and train people on various aspects of business. Hence, coaching and training became an extension of my work. Thus, here I am, digging into my key strengths and working towards building growth for my clients. Today, I work with multiple businesses and help them identify and structure new revenue generating streams, or help them tweak their current business, and business working to create fast-paced growth. So that's about me in short. If you wish to know more, you could head to LinkedIn and check my profile over there. So before we begin, I would like to share a why. While I was planning this series, I was asked a few times, why? Why did I decide to pick this topic as my first topic for my very first public discussion? The answer to this is simple. The book, which is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, has a hand in my personal growth as a professional. Let me take you back in time a bit. This book released sometime in 1989-90 and soon caught the eye of many, and because it made a lot of sense, it helped many people, and it soon became a kind of status symbol to have read this book. In the mid-90s, I was in the college, and as every other college student, the book caught my fancy too. Largely to impress my friends, of course, that I've read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The drift, I'm sure you would understand. In fact, this was my first brush with a non-fiction read. Like most young adults growing up in the 90s, I used to read, generally Enid Blyton books, Famous 5, Secret 7, anyone? And you could add to that Agatha Christie and the likes. Of course, Mills and Boons were also there. So yeah, anyways, coming back to this book. So I picked it up just to be with the it crowd, as it was the in thing. Little did I know that the book will have a lasting impact on me. I have read this book multiple times since then, and every time the meanings and the takeaway from the book has changed. So this is the original copy which I bought in the 90s with my notes inside it. Okay, I generally don't like writing inside the book, so you will see very subtle pencil marks over there just to highlight something which I feel is very important, and I've had this book with me ever since. And every time I read it, I definitely have an aha moment, and I think, why did I not see this earlier? So now you know why I've picked this as the topic for my first ever public live interaction. And before we move in to see what we would cover in this series, let me start the Slideshare for that. 1 second, please. So in this book today, what we will cover is, we will talk about the introduction overall, over the various episodes. The series is spread over 9 episodes, and this is how it looks. Today, of course, we will start with the introduction. And of course, today, another reason I started it is because today is an auspicious day. So wish you all a very happy Dussehra. We have had a very difficult year and hope things will become better from now onwards. So today being an auspicious day, I decided to start something new, and I hope that the good luck of the day will pass to all of us and you will find value in all these episodes. And by the end of each episode, there will be a take action point or a task to do which needs to be worked on before the next episode. However, here is a question for you. Somebody asked me when I was talking about this series that who should attend the series. So what I did was I have a series of 3 questions. And if your answer to any one of them or all 3 of them is yes, then this series is definitely for you. So the question number 1 is, do you have a problem? And if you do you wish to solve that problem? And do you believe that you can solve this problem? So if your answer to these questions is yes, this series is for you. And before we move ahead, I would recommend that you sit with a pen and notebook to take notes and to maintain a journal. Yes, I am a bit old school like that. So I'll give you a minute for you to pick that pen and paper so that you could make notes during the series. And while you're I'm sure some of you would be sitting with the pen and paper ready in your hand. And those of you who are yet to get that, I'll give you 2 minutes for it. In the meanwhile, I'm going to share some, small anecdotes about the book first. So, when I was reading the book, and especially over the years, I realized certain things that, the book itself has very specific reason and way it has been decided. In fact, I have taken a leaf out of this book itself, and the episodes which have been created are also created with specific thoughts in mind. Now, let me give you the secret out. Why did I choose 9 different episodes where we have 7 habits? I could have started off with a quick introduction, picked up habit number 1 and moved it and finished the entire thing over 7 episodes maybe. However, I decided to dedicate a complete episode to the introduction because the introduction itself has a lot of value. The first page of the book where it says, after content and everything, the topic starts from page number 15. Okay. So the book's chapter 1 starts from page 15 and the book concludes at page 319. So approximately the book has 300 pages of content. In the book itself, there is a detailed introduction and prerequisites before we get into the actual 7 habits. Of course, after which is explanation to the habits, and then there is follow-up and conclusion. Now imagine the importance of introduction in the mind of the author that, I told you the book starts from page 15. That's the page 1 of the start of the chapter. And that intro setup goes up to page number 62, which means that it's almost 50 pages, which is dedicated to the setup itself, just to the introduction. Now, to give you an idea, here is how the content section of the book looks like. So today, in the introduction part, we will cover the first part, which is the inside out chapter, and followed by the overview of the 7 habits. So the chapter 1 begins with something called the paradigm and principles. So what does this mean? Okay. What the author has done over here is, before getting into the details, he starts off with a story. And he starts off with the story of a struggle which he and his wife Sandra had with one of their child who was socially immature. They thought they were helping the child by being encouraging. However, they soon realized that the problem was within them first. They had built a perception that his capabilities, or let's say incapabilities. So yes, their perception was actually coming in the way of being able to actually help the child. So the author over here makes a powerful statement. Let me stop the screen share so that we have a better one-on-one interaction. Yes. So I will be going on and off the slide share so that certain things where I would want the topics to be highlighted and for certain things to be noticed, I will put the PowerPoint on, and at rest of the places, we'll have a direct interaction. So coming back to the story, the author and his wife thought they were helping their child by encouraging them. However, they soon realized that the problem was within them, because they had built a perception about his capabilities, or just say incapabilities. And this is where the author makes a powerful statement by saying, if you want to change a situation, we need to change ourselves. So it's not about the others, it's about us. That is why the chapter is titled Inside Out. So what he's trying to say is, we tend to have an opinion based on our perception of a situation. So this is something which is very important to understand. And this is what takes us to the next point in the book, which is the change comes from within. So when I read this, I will share what my understanding of this was. So when we are talking about change comes from within, why do we need to talk about this? We need to discuss this because we all are conditioned by our upbringing. We are conditioned by our environments and dialogues around us. When we are able to recognize this conditioning and understand a person or a situation as what is instead of what we think it is, change will happen, perceptions will change. For perception builds bias, and that is the root of many ills. Therefore, let's from today try to look at a situation minus our conditioning. Okay, so let me give you an example here. So if I have not studied from the top end school or a premium college, I will not be successful in my life, is a notion lot of us would be able to identify, but then it's a perception. Or let's go a bit more generic. You know, we all would have heard the statement that there is an age for everything. One can build a new career only early in our lives. And once we have taken a decision on a career path, we need to stick to it. And you cannot, and you should not have a career shift, say when you are turning 80 or 60 or 70. And yes, there is a reason I'm taking these numbers as the age factor, because there are many examples where people have broken this perception, this conditioning, and started successful careers after the age of 60, right? Now, let me share something more. See, I'm not perfect, and I have changed my career trajectory multiple times. So I did not realize that probably I've been living this on a major part of my life. That is, not identifying with perceptions and doing what I thought was right from a very young age. So just to give you an example, Like I said, I changed my career trajectory multiple times. Till school, which is till 12th standard, I was a science stream student with both mathematics and biology as my subject. In college, I picked up economics honors instead of science stream or instead of becoming an engineer. Of course, many around me were horrified as they thought I was signing in on my doom sheet. I went on to do my MBA. There too, it was expected that I would choose the field of IT over anything else as my grades were very good in that stream. I decided otherwise and I followed my heart. Then when all who were in my age group were getting married and planning families, I decided to stay unmarried. Later, at the height of my corporate career, gave up everything to become an entrepreneur. I think unknowingly, I broke every rule in the book of conditioning and following a safe route of living one's life. And yes, I'm saying unknowingly because by that time, I did not understand the concept of conditioning and perception. Yes, what I understood was that following my heart and following what I think works best for me is the way to be. And that is exactly what I did. And I don't think I fared badly after all this. Today, when I look back, I don't regret anything and do realize that the introduction of this book early in my life played a subtle part in many of my later part of life decisions because the book had made me fearless. In today's age, we talk more about a good personality winning hearts. This too has its seed in the book. The point made is that we need to work on our personality ethics. Yes, I'm introducing a new term from the book over here, personality ethics. That is how we interact with people or blend in situations and be presentable, etc. So if I am doing this workshop and I sit like this and talk to you like this, I'm sure most of you would leave. So I need to be presentable. I need to have a smiling face, right? However, a pleasing personality or having personality ethics is great to give us short-term success. For long-term impact, we need to go to the basics, which is character ethics. Now, what is character ethics? It is what we are from within, the integrity, honesty, courage. What are the things? These are the things what will take us far. My take on this is that we need both of them in our life. So if we just have personality ethics, that isn't enough. Yes, we may get short-term success. It would not take us far in the long run. And if we just have character ethics, it will take a lot of time to people, for people to understand the character ethics that we have if we are devoid of the personality ethics. So if we have to move faster and make deeper impact, we need both. Being presentable helps us make the first impression, which is your personality ethics, and how we behave in terms of dealing with people from point of view of being trustable, being humble, is character ethics. When we work on both of this, we will shine and stand out of the crowd, which will lead to lasting success. Now, both character ethics and personality ethics, now I'm going to introduce another term over here. Both character ethics and personality ethics are examples of something called a paradigm, which is actually one of the most important part of this section of the book. So what is a paradigm? Before we get into the actual definition, I would want you to have a look at this picture. What do you see? This is an exercise which was done by the author where half of the people saw a young lady dressed perfectly and maybe a model or something like that. And there was a section of people who saw an old woman over here. So what happened over here is when both the sides of the room started discussing it, they ended up disagreeing with each other, and one couldn't understand what the other was saying, because somebody was saying, how can you say that there is a young woman? This is a poor old lady in the photograph. How can you see a young woman? Till one guy jumped up, went to the board and pointed that, see, this is the necklace the lady is wearing just above the fur. And that is when the other side of the room said, oh no, that is the old lady's mouth. And suddenly the room became silent, and everybody started looking at things from the other person's point of view. See, this is what happens. We see the world from our eyes. So when somebody was seeing a young girl, the person was correct. But the person who was seeing the old woman was also right. So that is our paradigm. So why does paradigm happen? So coming to the definition of paradigm, a paradigm is a way of looking at something. Paradigm happens due to our conditioning and where we are in our own growth. Now, let me share with you another example. So, you know what example I'm going to talk about is, if we talk to school kids, say somebody who is in their senior section, 11th, 12th, ready to get out of school, get into college, and for some reason they miss a year. That year, losing that year is, disheartening for them. Why did I share this example? Because let me take you back to my life a bit more. Something which happened when I was in school. I'm a daughter of an army officer. My father had a posting based job. So every 2 to 3 years, we would change our stations. And after 10th, when I started my 11th standard, Dad got posted out to a new station, and we, as always, moved with him to the new station. Somehow things over there didn't go down very well with my body, and I developed some ailments, and it was a prolonged illness which led me to miss school a lot. And by the end of the year, even though I had given my exams, due to various reasons, the school was unable to promote me from the 11th standard to the 12th standard, which meant that I would be losing a year. Of course, that didn't go down well with me, because I was upset. Losing a year was a big deal for me. Not just that, the environment and the circle I was living in. As an army community, we are a small community. It's a cantonment area. Everybody knows everybody. So my friends who knew me to be in the 11th standard at that time would see me in 11th standard again. That was hurting my ego, my self-esteem. It was a very difficult period in that sense for me. However, I was lucky to have extremely supportive family, friends. So all my friends over there supported, understood the situation, and made it easy for me. Now, this was many, many years ago. Today, when I think about it, I actually smile. I don't feel the pain of losing that 1 year. Losing of 1 year has become immaterial in today's time for me. Now that is the paradigm shift which has happened in me because I am a changed person. The perception, the environment which I had as a 15 or 16-year-old is different from what I have today. Now, if I meet a 15-year-old who is also suffering from the thought of probably or the fear of losing a year, even if I want to explain to that child that it's okay, it happens and you will come out fine in the long run, may not be understood very well by that kid. However, I, as somebody who has lived through that time, would be able to appreciate that person better. Here, I would like to, share a choice. Now, when the kid explains his or her fear of, the fear of losing an ear, I have two choices. I could actually empathize with the child and say that, this may happen. Try and make him or her understand the situation. If they don't, let them be and support them, or react. Get into the other extreme and say that, you know what, you know nothing, this doesn't matter, and blah, blah, blah. So it's my choice. If I understand paradigms and work at perceptions, I will use or pick choice number one, where I would like to probably explain it to the child. And if the child is not able to see my point of view, I would let it be and see his or her point of view instead, and be supportive enough. And that is what, when we understand this conditioning, this perception, or we understand paradigm, that is when we are able to work on something called the paradigm shift. So when we understand that a paradigm is the way of looking at something, and we understand that everybody can be looking at the same thing, but the takeaways could be different, is when we move from paradigm to having a paradigm shift. And this example of a school child is what a paradigm shift looks like, where I, who understand a 15-year-old and their fears, will be able to make that paradigm shift of understanding their point of view. And when we do that, is when we create a better atmosphere for everybody. So what, in as far as definition of paradigm shift is concerned, it says it's an important change that happens when the usual way of thinking about or doing something is replaced by a new and different way. So let's understand paradigm shift a bit better. See, the reason I'm spending a bit more of time over here is because paradigm is the seat to understand the 7 habits. Hence, it's important that we take this forward and understand it better. So when we talk about paradigm shift, so what are we doing over here? So let me share a story with you. Now, probably some of you would have heard this story. So there was this captain of a battle sea ship, and there were these 2 battleships who are going about and in the sea, and then of course it's a battleship, so it needs to be the one in the front at all times. So they are going over there, and they see another light from the front. So when that happens, what does the sea captain do? Sorry, the battleship captain do? The battleship captain immediately asks its people to send a message to the other light, which means it could be another ship. It's static, coming straight at them. So which means they are on collision course. So he asks them to send a message to the other ship saying, change course by 20 degrees. This message is sent across over the radio. The signal is received, a response is received from the other side, where they repeat the same thing saying, change your course by 20 degrees. Now this captain is quite upset, and he's like, how can he say something like that? I am the captain of a battleship. So he immediately radios them again saying, we are a 2-fleet battleship. You change your course by 20 degrees. But we have the right first, so change your course. It's a command to us. So the other end response that you are requested to change your course by 20 degrees. Now the captain is very upset. So he goes to the transmission himself and says that I am the captain speaking of the biggest battleship of the army, and I command you to change course by 20 degrees. We are on collision course with you. Response comes, dear sir, I am a humble seaman sitting at a lighthouse, hence request you to change course by 20 degrees. So do you see what happened over here? Of course, the captain immediately commanded his ship to change course by 20 degrees. He was seeing everything from his point of view, from his perception. The seaman sitting at the lighthouse was seeing things from his point of view. So that day we see lighthouse at the other end is when we will make a shift, we will have a paradigm shift. So this was a story which is there in the book, and I thought it was beautifully explained. In fact, I would share a personal example over here. So I met one of my dad's friend. An uncle is a senior scientist in DRDO, etc. And I was talking to him. We were discussing certain concepts about perceptions again. And I was sitting on one side of the table, and he was at the adjacent side. So he was at an angle to me. And during the discussion, he suddenly shared that, Rashie, do you look at can you look at this rose bouquet on the table? I was like, yes, of course I can see it. He's like, so what do you see? So I just shrugged and said, roses. So to which uncle responded, great, how many roses? I said, I can't, there are a lot of them, but yeah, I see a lot of roses. Uncle says that, what if I tell you that you are wrong? And I was like, why would you say that? You know, this is a fact. There are many roses, red colored roses right in front of me. So he's like, but from where I am sitting, I can see only 2 roses and lots of green leaves. So I can say that you are wrong and I am right because there are only 2 red roses and a lot of leaves. So both of us are right. From where you are seeing the thing, you are seeing the right thing from your perception. What I am seeing and I'm saying is also right, because we are not seeing the whole story. We are not seeing everything. So when we understand paradigm and paradigm shift is when we understand how important it is to keep an open mind. Be optimistic and realize that however much we see, there's always more to the picture. So we may think that we have the complete picture, but we can never be sure. We always have the possibility of making a paradigm shift. So that is why it is important to understand this concept, because that is where in today's time also, when we have different point of views, instead of having an argument, what we can do is have an understanding of where the other person is coming from, understanding that your truth is not the only truth. What the other person is seeing from his or her eyes, it is his truth. So what we understand over here is whatever we may think to be the right may be the right thing for us. It may not be what is. So when we have to look at something and we face some kind of resistance and block it from the other side, instead of fighting it, the best is to keep an open mind and try and see things from the other point of view also. And why it is so important, I believe you would start realizing it now, that why it is so important to talk about these points right now instead of later or not talk about it, is because we are going to talk about 7 habits. These are going to be life-changing habits. These could be things which we may not have thought about, or these could be things we may think we already know, but do we have the complete picture? That is why it is very important for us to understand paradigm and paradigm shift, so that we have an open mind to imbibe and accept the habits which would be the part of future episodes and is the part of the remaining chapters in the book. However, now we have spoken about paradigm, there is something more which remains constant. No matter what we do with paradigm, we can have a paradigm shift and things change, but principles are something which do not change. This is the point which is made in the book also, that where the concept of principles is introduced. So what is the definition of principle? Now, so principles are time-tested values that have worked through the ages regardless of the social context. So when we say principle, it is not about any kind of cult or religious dictats or rules and regulation of a particular community. Principles are self-evident way of being and can be easily validated by any individuals. Now, when I say that this is too much verbose and too many words over here, so let's take some examples over here. So example of principle would be being unbiased and fair, having integrity, valuing and following human dignity, honesty in our behavior. Such things are called principle, and such principle are what create an environment of trust and goodwill. Now, this can be understood and self-evident. I believe, and truly speaking, I have put an honest effort with full integrity and complete from my heart effort in doing this episode today, and you can feel it. And if I would have been cheating on you and doing some kind of random stuff, even then you would be able to feel it. That is what is principle, because you can see the effort and honesty. There would be an environment of trust and goodwill between me and my audience, between me and you. So that impact itself is the impact of having those principles in the right way in your life. And of course, as you can understand, these principles don't change. So we all understand, and why they don't change. Like I said, they build trust and goodwill, and anything apart from these principles is not principles, as simple as that. So when we have trust and goodwill, it is known that in such an environment, both personal and professional growth get a booster dose. Another principle that one can talk about is doing service or giving back to society. Of course, we need to understand that principle is within us. It's only us who actually know that if we are following these basic principles or not. It is that personal. Principles are not practices. It's important to understand what principle is and what it is not. So that's why I'm sharing, because these are the things, it took me a while to understand these things, and this is where I was going wrong. So I'm just bringing out those things and sharing with you so that it becomes easier for you. So principles are not practices. Practices are situational or related to specific activities. Also, principle is not equal to value. My ethical system and my value systems is different from my principle. How? For example, a gang of thieves or dacoits can have shared value. However, their basic conduct and action are in direct violation to the fundamental principles. Hence, values are not principles. They're two different things. Principles are guidelines for human conduct and not specific to a community or group. So principles are intrinsic to life itself. Like a flower. A flower gives. It gives its fragrance. It gives its beauty, fragrance and beauty, and it is for everybody to experience. A plant stays true to the nature and life force, and it's not that the plant will say that I will give my benefits only to this specific group or community. No, it is worldwide. It is same. It remains unchanged for anything and everything. That is what I'm saying. Principle is the fundamental force. So excellence and working at our full potential is also a principle. Like I gave the example of a flower, the flower is never half bloomed. It goes to its full bloom, which is working at its full potential. So doing our best, our excellence, and working on our full potential is also a principle. However, what happens in such case? We get marred by conditioning and other forces, and that is why paradigm shift becomes important. So even though principle is fundamental to everything, our conditioning covers it up. It creates a layer of dust over principle, and we need paradigm shift to remove that dust. Now, when we understand these basics, we will appreciate the impact of the paradigm shift in our life. So the book, when presents the 7 habit, it is not just to know about it, but to imbibe it in our life and to take requisite action. This book is a change book. It's a book which is a catalyst to become better. Hence, to understand the habits well, we need to have an open mind, which is possible only when we lead a life of principle and work with paradigm shift. This again is constant work and not a one-time fix. So whenever I go back to the book, like I said, I have something new. I understand paradigm shift better. I understand areas where I refuse to have the paradigm shift. So every time and without fail, the book adds a new dimension to my life and always acts as a reinforcement and check on following principles and having an open mind to engineer the paradigm shift whenever required. And you know what? The passion with which I'm talking about paradigm and principle, because I think now is the time when I have come to the level where I do understand a better part of these terms now, because it has taken me a lot of time to understand paradigm and paradigm shift. And I think I'm still learning better than last time, but still going, there is lots to cover. What another thing here I'm going to talk about is that in principle, what happens when we see good happening in the life of people, families, or organization? Understand one thing clearly, it's almost always based on solid principles. However, what we do, at times we are tempted to ask these people, them, that how do they do it? So when we go to them and say, hey, you seem to be doing things right and it's working for you, you're successful. So what did you do and how did you do it? Can you teach me your ways? You know what we are doing over here? We are basically seeking and asking for quick fixes because we want to get rid of immediate problem and pain. We are not attacking the core problem or reason of an undesirable situation. So we need to understand that to overturn a situation, time is required and it will not be easy. It is hard work. There is nothing called overnight success, be it an individual or an organization. So when I work with companies as a consultant, this is what I coach them on. There are no easy fixes and you need to change the way you look at things. Because what another point we need to understand over here is that after this, that the problem is the way we see a problem. A problem actually in itself is not as big as the way we see the problem. So let's see an example on this about the way we see a problem is the problem. So let's, for a change, now take an example of an organization, because it's not just about personal growth. 7 habits will not only help us with our personality, it is great to be imbibed at an organization level. Taking organization as an individual and ensuring the habits of the organization are as per this book will lead to higher productivity and success for the organization. So here's the example. So a lot of times we hear things like, if you are at a senior position, we feel that the employees don't work if the boss is not around, or employees will change their jobs too soon. And generally the thought process from an employer or a boss mindset is that, you know, in such kind of a situation, if you want to solve this problem, we need to shake things up, make head rolls. And these are the things which people come to me with when I consult organizations and they have problem. They say, what if we do this, we do that? So yes, we believe that if we shake things up a bit, make head rolls, or have some new rules in place, probably employees will shape up and start performing well. The point here is, it is possible that the problem is elsewhere. The apparent disloyal behavior of the employee could be because they believe you don't keep their best interest in mind as an employer, or you treat them as an object, or have a complete transactional value type association with them, which means that I give you money, you give me work, right? But then that's not how humans work. You cannot have this kind of a direct interaction, emotionless, heartless interaction, because we are dealing with another human being. We are not dealing with another object. So deep inside, as an employer, you know exactly what you think of your employees, and it is possible that the way you look at them could be the part of the problem. All right. So again, inside out, when we point finger at others, it's a very common saying, 3 fingers pointing at us. It's so true. So it could be the way we are looking at the problem could be the problem. So it's important that we move from just the problem itself to understanding the larger picture. So this is what is the prerequisites. This is what is called opening of your own mind. And this is what the book teaches you. For me, this book changed the way I look at things a lot. And on this note, we will now move to the final section of today's episode, which is about the actual overview of the 7 habits and what are the other things book is going to talk about. So before talking about the 7 habits itself, what is important? The key word over here is habit. So first things first, what is habit? Habit is an intersection of knowledge, skill, and desires. The book has a very interesting explanation to this. This is what the book says it is all about. Like I said, knowledge is what to do, why to do, skill is how to do, and desire is the want to do something, whether I want to do something or not. When these 3 things combine together, it gives rise to a habit. Now let's understand this with an example. It's possible that I might be ineffective with my colleagues, family, friends, because I am constantly telling them what to do. I don't listen to them. I might know that to be effective, I also need to listen to them. So I know that currently I'm ineffective, and to become effective, I am not only supposed to share my point of view, I'm also supposed to listen. I need to listen. However, I have the knowledge that I need to listen to them to be effective, but I might not have the skill of being a listener, or I may just don't want to listen. I don't have that drive and intention to listen to anybody. So when these things are missing, I will remain ineffective. So to become effective, I will have to manage all 3: knowledge, skill, and value. And when I do so, I will become effective, and that is how habits are formed. With the right habit, we learn to be productive and effective, and the right effectiveness is achieved by the support of those around us. So we as humans by nature are interdependent. As an interdependent person, I have an opportunity to share myself deeply, meaningfully with others, and I will then have access to the vast resource and potential of other human beings. However, being truly independent is a choice, sorry, truly interdependent is a choice only independent people can make. Do you know what I'm saying over here? So this is the interesting part where the book takes us. It says interdependence, we all agree, is a very important part of growth and to do big. If I think I am the only one, I am an independent person and I can do everything myself, probably yes, some things, but I would still not be as effective as I could be when I start using the support of other people. So when the interdependency comes, my efforts with their potential can create magic. However, the book says being truly interdependent is a choice only independent people can make. Dependent people cannot become interdependent. Why? Because they don't own enough of themselves. So what will they offer? When they don't own themselves, they don't have control over themselves, then what will they have to offer? So the effort, that is the seat of the 7 habits. And that is what is explained in this picture, that we start with dependency. When you are dependent, you cannot become interdependent and become big and have the biggest potential life has to offer. So what you need to do is first become independent. And to become independent, you need to inculcate certain habits. And that is when the author introduces us to the concept of private victory. So, and that consists of the first 3 habits, which is being proactive, begin with the end in mind, and put first thing first. These are the first 3 habits the author speaks about, which is talking about private victory and moving from dependency to independence. And when we have reached the level of initial independence, we need to move to interdependence. And to do so is when other 3 habits come into picture, which is public victory, which is think win-win, seek first to understand, then to be understood, and 6th as synergize. This is when we have all these 6 habits in place, is when we move towards interdependence, and that is when comes to maintain that interdependence and to keep growing is habit number 7, which is sharpen the saw. So if we have to look at one line explanation on all the 7 habits, it is habit number 1, be proactive, take responsibility for life. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind, define your mission and goals in life. Habit 3, put first things first, prioritize and do the most important thing first. Habit 4, think win-win. Have an everyone can win attitude, which means don't unnecessarily compete. Take people along with you. Competition only will pull you down. Whereas collaboration and moving together will make a better impact both for you and everybody else. Habit number 5, seek first to understand and then to be understood. Listen to people sincerely. Synergy is habit number 6, which is work together to achieve more. Again, it's an extension of habit number 4. Understand, habit 4 to 6 are public victories. So that's the extension. And of course, we'll take these habits one per episode. And habit number 7 is sharpen the saw, which is renew yourself regularly. So this is what the author offers through the book. Again, coming back to the content, this is how it is divided. As you can see right in the beginning, we today covered the paradigms and principles, which is the inside out principle, the 7 habits overview, and then we will move in the next episode to the part 2 of the book, which is Private Victory, which will cover 3 habits, but we will not cover all the 3 habits in one go. We will have separate episodes for each of them. So we will start with the concept of Private Victory in episode number 2 next week by habit number 1, which is being proactive. But before we close the session today, I have something for all of you. Like I said in the beginning, that there is going to be something called take action or some action steps. I hope most of you would have kept a notebook and pen. If you haven't, ensure that you have it with you before the next episode. And what I want you to do is start noticing the difference in perceptions. Start writing down and creating a journal about the paradigm shifts you made. Start noting down the various principles you see in your life. What are those fundamentals which can, no matter what the situation, remain unchanged? I have given few examples to you earlier, so follow that and build onto that list of principles one can follow and live with. Now, you will have access to me throughout this entire 9-episode series. I would suggest, if you have any doubt, have any questions, these are my email IDs, rashie.sinha@gmail.com and rashie@theyellowcarcompany.com. Yes, I spell my name with an additional E, numerology at play. That's another story for another day. So these are my email IDs. Please write to me. I would recommend, do not comment on the chat section. Yes, those in my personal network can send me personal chats. I will be happy to answer your queries over there. However, I would still prefer if you could use either of these 2 email IDs, rashie.sinha@gmail.com or rashie@theyellowcarcompany, to write to me if you have any doubts. And I will definitely respond to your queries and help you build and master the concept of paradigm principle and paradigm shift, so that we are ready to take on to the 7 habit and make changes in our life. So please feel free to write to me. I'll be happy to help you. And thank you very much for your attention today. Before I go, here is one statement before I close. Understand, there could be people who would be knowingly or unknowingly already following these principles, right? It's because it's basic human nature to be good. That is our core nature. We change it or it gets tweaked because of conditioning. However, this particular book will help you shine on those parts or habits which you already have. As another author who I follow a lot, Mayalg, says, when you know better, you do better. So keep watching, keep working on yourself, and once again, wish you all a very happy Dussehra. Thank you. A very happy Dussehra. Thank you.